Could you really be in this town?
Before we get into the review, I just like to say that the gameplay that we recorded does not actually reflect the game. There seems to be stuttering in the recording, and that was an issue on our end and not the game's end. The history of Silent Hill 2 precedes it. Released in 2001, the game pushed the survival horror genre with the addition of cinematic tension and surreal character writing straight from an episode of Twin Peaks. The story of James Sunderland has been told within gaming groups for years, and its theme of guilt and loss have been discussed on all your favorite gaming podcasts as well, making it common knowledge and removing its impact on anyone diving into this retro game. Enter developer Bloober Team, known for Layers of Fear and The Medium. This small team has risen from the indie ashes of survival horror to work with one of the genre's fathers, Konami, and release a remake of Silent Hill 2 with a few unique tweaks. Silent Hill 2 takes place in the town of Silent Hill as James Sunderland arrives after receiving a letter from his late wife, Mary. 3 years earlier, she passed away, and in that time, James has really put himself through the ringer, which has led him here. For James, Silent Hill was a place of happiness for him and Mary, but it's definitely seen better days. As I mentioned before, the core themes of this game have been spoiled for years, kinda giving it a sort of untouchable aura amongst survival horror loyalists who are plotting their exaggerated reactions for when Bloober Team fails. Well, gamers, I'm kinda sorry, but everything about this version of Silent Hill 2 is stellar. Bloober Team has hit every nostalgic plot point I had with the series while making the experience feel brand new. I was once again experiencing the game for the first time, which is something I haven't done in over 20 years. I was frustrated, scared, confused, exhausted, tense, and a little emotional as I became reacquainted with James and his demons. The supporting cast also manages to make their mark, as each voice actor does a phenomenal job of conveying these over-the-top scenes through a deadpan delivery that somehow also manages to have personality. I'm not kidding when I say that the actors understood the assignment and really sold the hopeless nightmare that is Silent Hill 2. Before jumping into the game, you'll have a choice on how you'd like to experience it. Players can fine-tune the difficulty of combat, puzzles, and there's an option to give James a mask. The difficulty options mainly affect how the hints are displayed on screen as you explore the various areas. Depending on how close you are to an item, you can see an indicator marking its presence, which can be completely removed for higher immersion. And that's what this entire experience feels like. It's as if Bloober Team took my 12-year-old imagination of this place and made it a reality. As you progress, James will eventually gather a few needed items. For a survival horror, there's very little menuing you'll need to do in this game. The only moments you'll enter the menu will likely be if you're lost. Though I will say the notes in this game are extremely helpful. Still, all of these hints and foreshadowing from the text are grounded in the world. The entire experience is built around immersion, and that's about when you figure out that the enemies are no joke and items are extremely limited. The combat from the original Silent Hill 2 has been wildly improved. Here the camera has a slightly automated lock-on that sometimes glitches out if you're too close to a wall, but it works most of the time. Ideally, you'll want to be able to read these enemies' telegraphs, but these foes zoom around you, evading your light and landing hits without warning. Thankfully, there's a helpful dodge that you'll need to master if you hope to survive. It's all reasonably intuitive in practice, and while you'll get used to each enemy, the challenge feels balanced throughout the entire game. I'll admit that I died a few times and I suffered some time loss after not saving for a while, and on that note, there are autosave points, but you're on your own here, so be aware of that. Over time, you gain access to other weapons like a gun and pipe, but the weapons don't get too crazy. The combat stays engaging thanks to the balanced environmental tension and a solid variety of new enemies. Bloober Team doesn't have to throw you in a room with monsters to scare you when they could put you in a fight for your life at the sheer thought of running into Pyramid Head. The team uses this to their advantage, pacing the experience and not allowing players who wish to marathon the game a chance to feel bored. That said, those who take their time through the streets of Silent Hill will likely experience far more immersive nightmares. The environments are simply haunting, if not gorgeous, and though James can run at a decent speed, I often found myself walking just to capture the scene. Some stunning and well-designed set pieces here lend to the well-constructed flow of the various landmarks, giving me a familiar yet brand new experience. I enjoyed walking into the different rooms and trying to follow the chaos that took place before I arrived. The sounds of distant shuffling and moans haunt you as you turn the corner, expecting to fight, but the static in your radio fades, and there's nothing there. Puzzles are also a significant part of gameplay. The design here seems to be comprised of larger multi-step puzzles padded with smaller locked door puzzles as you progress. I'll admit some of the puzzles did cause me pause, but a big part of the game is actually exploring each room. At times I missed an important item and couldn't progress. However, the handy map also lists some helpful information to show if a room has any significance after you've left it, along with locked doors and passages. There's a nice synergy within the design as there's a false sense of panic. Every part of your being wants to get James out of this place, but obstacle after obstacle stops any advancement. And that's when the glowing red screen of James' low health starts to be too much to endure, and the syringe in your inventory looks mighty appealing. And so you take it, and the red border around the screen is gone, but James is still trapped. Silent Hill 2 Remake doesn't try to overshadow the narrative impact that Silent Hill 2 delivered to survival horror fans. Instead, it capitalizes on it in an unapologetically respectful way. I was forced to once again experience this nightmare as an adult in the context of these very adult themes and nuances, but I felt like that experience still works as a surface-level survival horror. The narrative has enormous depth, but the gameplay systems and survival horror challenges that push players to their limits are all very real and here. This remake is a brilliant showcase of how to deliver classic experiences to modern players, and I highly recommend it. Noisy Pixel is giving Silent Hill 2 Remake a 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all our future content. There's also a very satisfying melee stomp attack that I couldn't get enough of.
Noisy Pixel.